Hey, we have some exciting news to share. We have written a book, Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and it is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Just search for the title of our book, Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and pre-order your copy today. As listeners of our podcast, you know we have been using the principles of a polarity mindset, healthy relationships, and meaningful dialogue as leaders for decades. And as business partners, these principles are the cornerstone of our business. Polarities are all around us, even in us, and if you can't recognize them and don't know how to leverage them, they will haunt you. They will keep showing up as persistent problems you are unable to solve. For us, having this knowledge compels us to share it with leaders around the world. We believe the polarization in our homes, schools, communities, and world would shift if every leader became polarity intelligent. We can't wait for you to read our book. Pre-order your copy of Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership on Amazon.com now.
This is Healthcare's Missing Logic Podcast, episode number 225. This Encore episode is Reduce Negative Tension in Your Life and Leverage the Predictability of Polarities.
And the reason we're bringing this episode to you again is because tensions never go away when they're associated with a polarity.
Yeah, it's kind of unlike problems, right? Problems, you can use either or thinking, and there's an endpoint when you find the solution. But polarities just keep on keeping on. Kind of like, polarities never go away, just like the challenges in your golf game never go away.
Never.
So we kind of tapped into what we know about polarities and what we know about golf to bring a unique way to explore how to reduce negative tensions and leveraging that predictability of polarity. So you kind of get a twofer, get a little golf lesson if you don't know much about golf, as well as some insight into polarities. And, again, it's, there's a place for either or thinking. Definitely when you have a problem, you need to identify that solution. But most of the challenges that we face are polarities, and that requires both and thinking. But the first thing that we have to do is to be able to differentiate between that problem that you can solve and the polarity that you have to leverage and understand those dynamics in polarities, right? And then the other is to understand how they work because they're predictable. All polarities work the same way, and that's what makes them predictable. So once you understand how one works, you understand how they all work, and then you can actually predict the results that you get. That's pretty awesome. It's like a crystal ball, really. So we love this episode because it's just a fun way to explore all this. But it's also bringing out, that conflict and tension is one of the ways that you will experience polarities. And we've experienced tensions on the golf course with the long game and the short game, right? And some of the things that we value in our other parts of our lives, like our professional life and our personal life tensions that we experience. So we kind of bring all that out and in this particular episode. And the whole thing is like when you leverage this with intention, you can get to that greater purpose that you're striving for, whether that's a quality life or a quality golf game. So keep listening. You're going to learn about both.
Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic Podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself.
Hey, it's Tracy.
And Michelle, I was just going to say her sidekick.
Yeah, you are my sidekick. And you're listening to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, in case you didn't know. We're excited to be back with you today.
We are.
Yeah. And we've had some fun recently. We've been really focused on our relationship and just making sure that in the midst of running a business and doing a podcast and speaking and all these other things, that we're taking some time to have some fun and enjoy our friendship. And we went on a little golf outing last week.
We did. It was so wonderful.
Oh, it was a beautiful day.
And we love to golf. Yeah. It's one of our favorite things. So we just took a day off and went golfing.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, it's a small golf course by my house. And, it's like, 6-7 miles down the road. Mm-hmm. And you can just, little 9-hole golf course looking over the lake. So
it's beautiful.
It's really cool.
It's
very
beautiful.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It was quite the experience.
Yeah. We learned a few things because we're always learning, Yeah. We're always learning. And if you want to learn how Tracy learned how to play golf, just listen to our episode 100.
Oh, yeah.
I shared that story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking back, as we were preparing for today, I was thinking back to all those times that Jerry and I went golfing with you and Kev, all the worm burners, like all the how awful we were.
Well, yeah, but then they moved to Arizona. They golfed year round, took golf lessons, and all of a sudden Kevin and I are like, what the heck happened?
Well, we knew we enjoyed it. Like, we had fun.
Yeah.
But we weren't having fun sucking. So today is not all about golf, but we're going to be using a golf analogy to kind of teach you a little bit more about how polarities work.
That's why we have our golf attire on today.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we are ready to go. We are in uniform, ready to go.
We are. And this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. So
it is.
Before we dive into that, though, right, we'll give you a little background here.
Yes. So, if you are like most healthcare leaders, guess what I'm going to say? You are an excellent problem solver.
That's right.
And you need to be. And that's a very good thing because we have to be able to solve problems as leaders. But, Tracy and I, you've been listening to our podcast for any amount of time. You know that that's not the only thing is solving problems. You also have to know how to recognize and manage polarities. And that's just really critical, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, problem solving is a critical skill, too.
It is.
It's not to say you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
That's right.
But a lot of those challenges, as you know by now, are not problems that can be solved. Many of them are, problems, or they're actually polarities that have to be leveraged or managed. Mm-hmm. And remember, polarities are interdependent pairs of perspectives or points of views or values. Appear to be opposite or contradictory, but they're really interdependent, and you have to have both.
You have to have both
to get to that greater purpose, right? Yeah. That why in the sky. So problem-solving logic alone is not going to get you through all the challenges that you face as a leader. This is a both and. You need the problem-solving because there are problems, but you also have these little polarities.
Yep,
they're all around you.
Yep, they have to be leveraged.
Yep, they do.
So, missing logic is all about polarity intelligence, and polarity intelligence is the missing logic in healthcare.
It is.
It's all connected.
It is.
And that's actually why we started our company, is to bring this competency forward and just really help leaders recognize that you have to be able to see both problem solving and polarities. And the first step in developing polarity intelligence is to be able to differentiate between a problem and a polarity. And the second essential skill is to understand how they work, because that's really important.
It's the magic.
It's the magic, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why this is such a valuable competency. And the outcomes are 100% predictable once you understand how they work.
They are, and that is gold. I mean, it's like having a crystal ball.
Yes.
I mean, really, like you can tell the future. You know what's going to happen based on what you do or you don't do. Like, who the heck wouldn't want that?
I know. I agree.
I mean, gosh, it's amazing. It's amazing. But, you know, if you're kind of conflicted as a leader, then, you know, you experience that tension and you think something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because tension begs to be relieved. So you want to release the tension. And you might be doing a couple of things. I hate to say this, but making a couple of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, along the way.
Yep.
And hit with your beliefs, right? Like, so what you do is you give attention to the thing that is causing you the greatest pain. That's just natural, right? Wherever the biggest tension is, that's where you're going to put your attention and you're going to try to relieve that. The other is, you know, sometimes we experience tension between where we are and where we want to be. Think about that as a leader, right? Or, you know, just think about that in your life, where your life is today and where you really want it to be. You feel that tension. And sometimes if that tension gets too great, you just let go of what you want. Yeah. And that's a big mistake.
It is a big mistake.
That leaders make, yeah.
Yeah, it is a big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Tracy said, the tension is never going to go away. And you're always going to feel some level of tension in your life, both in your professional life, there's going to be tension, and there's going to be tension in your personal life. And so we know that your greatest desire is really to make a difference as a healthcare leader and enjoy your life. That's what we all want.
Yeah. Oh, don't we though? Right? We want both.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is,
we make mistakes.
Well, we try to get to that state of 50-50 equilibrium.
Yes.
Right? Like think of the weights and measures, right? We want everything just kind of equally balanced. It just doesn't happen.
No.
It's not possible. It's too dynamic. There's too much going on, right? And so here's some examples, right? You're working really hard. Now, we've never experienced this. You're working really hard, you know, you're working a lot and you're hearing from your family, your husband, your kids, your mother. A lot of times moms, you know, well, you're just too busy. You look so tired. I never get to see you, right? Like you're not spending any time with us. We're not having any fun together. So that tension starts to build on that home side with your family. And so you go, okay, all right, got to give my attention there. And you shift all your attention to home, to family, to friends and relatives, whatever it is, until the next opportunity comes up and you're like, oh man, I could really make a difference here, right? I could get involved in this. This would be great. Or, you know, maybe just, maybe the expectations at work rise. Maybe there's a new project and you've been named as the leader of it or so, you know, it could be anything that happens. But again, now the tension is swinging to the work side and you're feeling that need to kind of resolve that tension and you shift back. It's this pendulum.
Back and forth.
Right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? And it's just kind of something that happens. Or, you know, it can be too, you know, another example is maybe you decide to go back to school, get your doctorate like me, or a master's degree, or, you know, a DMP or whatever it is, right? And you stop because the tension between achieving that goal and staying where you are is just too great, right? It's just too much. It's too much pressure. It's too hard, right? And so you let go because it's too intense.
Yeah. So the whole goal, knowing that you can't alleviate the tension, it's always going to be there, is to lean into it, right? Just lean into the tension, both on your personal life, your professional life, and have, you know, from both perspectives and leverage it to becoming a thriving, resilient, unstoppable leader. I think of the book, Tracy, by Sheryl Sandberg, when she wrote Lean In, right? For women leadership, just lean in. Well, that's what Polarity Intelligence is. You just lean into the tension. Don't be afraid of it.
It's energy.
Yeah.
If there's no tension, there's no movement.
That's right.
Right? Think about, you know, like a slingshot. It's not going anywhere if there's no tension. A bow and arrow, it's not going anywhere if there's no tension. So you really need the tension to move you forward. So when you think about that, right, we certainly felt a little bit of tension on the golf course last week.
Yeah, we did.
So, you know, here's our saying, like, well, what do you do if you're feeling all this tension? Just go play golf.
Works every time.
Works every
then
time.
You get a different kind of tension.
That's right. So there's even tension on the golf course.
There's lessons in golf.
Yes, there is.
Great lessons.
It's a great analogy. Right?
Yeah.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah, so today we're gonna talk about using the golf analogy of what we can learn from that, and what we're gonna share a little bit about what we learned about ourselves last week, and how you can really leverage that tension as well. So it's summer, and golf is one of our very favorite things to do. And if you don't know anything about golf, well, then you're going to learn something today. And if you know a lot about golf, this could help your game.
This will help your game for sure.
Because we're going to put a polarity lens on it.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, and we will show you how to do that. Just like in Caddyshack, be the ball, Danny.
That's right.
Well, we're going to be the polarity today.
Yeah, and there's definitely one there, right?
Yeah, it is. So anyway, we are going to frame this around polarity intelligence and recognize that golf is both a problem and a polarity. And sometimes you have really good games, and sometimes you have really crappy games, and some days you have both.
Some days you just give up. The tension's too great.
That's right. But the greater purpose, there's always a greater purpose in a polarity.
Yep.
So the greater purpose in golf is to have a average or a par scoring game, right?
Or above.
Or above.
Or below, I mean.
I was going to say below.
Below.
Right? Low is good.
Low is good in golf.
Go low in golf. Don't go high.
No, go low. Go low. Yeah, that's so true.
Lower the score, the better.
Yeah.
And then you've got two different parts of your game. You've got the long game and you have the short game. And you have to manage your energy between both aspects of golf. And that's why I just love this. And it's also the game you can love to hate.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I was telling Tracy I had a laugh. It was Father's Day recently, and my son Scott and his wife gave my husband a card, and it had a picture of a caveman on the front, and it said, "Look, stick, hole, hit the stick in the hole." But in the bottom it says, "How man learns to swear." And it brought back a memory for me when I was about, 10 or 11 years old. My dad loved to golf, and he said to me one day, "Michelle, you want to go golfing with me?" I was so excited. I was just thrilled. And we got to the first hole on the golf course, and I was trying not to laugh at my dad, the way he was positioned and squatting down. He had a really funny stance when he was making a drive. And then in his backswing, I said, "Hey, Dad." And he turned around and, well, some of those swear words came out of his mouth. I learned a lot about my dad at the golf course that day, and I came home and I said to my mom, "Wow, this is really an intense game."
Yes, it is.
Woo.
Oh my goodness.
So you can learn a lot from golf.
Yeah, you can. And you can have some of the most fun you'll ever have, right? So it's, again, that game you love to hate.
Yep,
and,
that's right.
All caused by that little white ball that you're trying to get in that hole, right? And then the clubs you got to use to get it there. So we're going to talk a little bit about the game of golf, the short game and the long game.
That's right.
As a polarity. So we're going to start with the short game. Now, when you're talking about a short game, this is when you're trying to get your ball, up on the green where the hole is, where you want to get it in. And you're fairly close to the green. So this is why we call it the short game, right? Because you're close to the green and you're trying to get the ball up on the green and into the hole with as few strokes as possible, right? And you use a couple of tools. One is a putter. Another might be a pitching wedge, right? Which will kind of bump the ball, give the ball some height and get it up on the green. And when you're on the green, you're putting, just like at putt-putt, right? Mini golf.
Yeah.
Like that. So when you have a really great short game, here's the benefits of that, right? You have a one putt game. Like if you have a really great short game, you have one putt into the hole, right? Which is awesome. That's awesome. Usually when you're putting your ball up onto the green, you're getting really close to that little hole, or we call the pin, where the flag is in the hole. Mm-hmm. And you get your ball really, really close, which means you can have a one-putt game.
Love it when that happens.
Love it when that happens. Makes it easier to have a one-putt game.
Yes.
Let's just say that. You can have a one-putt game from far back, too, if you're a good putter, right? And then the other is what we call pitching, is when you're trying to get that ball from, let's say the hole is up above you a little bit, right? And you're trying to get it from down below and up on, right? You're kind of pitching up onto for what we call birdies or eagles, which is 2 or 3 under.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's really good.
That is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Now, the long game, that's when you're back, right, on the tee box, and you're getting ready to hit your ball down the fairway, right, on your way to the hole. This is the long game, right? You got a driver here. Usually you're using a driver. When you get onto the fairway, you're using irons. It just depends on how long the hole is, how long the fairway is and what tool you're going to use, what club you're going to use. But when you have a really good long game, you're driving that ball onto the fairway, right? Like a really long way down, and you're in the short green grass, not off to the sides, and you're hitting it really far, right? Almost like more than halfway down the fairway. A lot of times, like you're really getting it down there. Now, the other thing is, you're positioning it. So you're hitting it where you're aiming, which is straight, right? Down the fairway. And you can even sometimes hit it down the fairway and shape it if the fairway happens to go off to the left or the right. Like you're aiming for where you want it to go, and it's actually going where you want it to go. Not in the trees.
That's right.
Right. Not anywhere
Don't
off.
want to go to the beach.
Not off the course. You're not hitting anybody with it. Killing any rabbits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the benefits of really having a strong game.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what happens is just like any other polarity, if you over-focus on one part of the polarity to the pole to the expense of the other, then you get into trouble. Same thing as with golf, is if you practice or pay attention to your long game, it's going to have implications in your short game if you're not doing that as well, and vice versa. So if you overemphasize on your short game, what's going to happen is when you drive the ball, you're going to go into the rough, you're going to go into the trees, you're going to go into the water because you haven't been paying attention to that skill set. And you can go out of bounds. And when you go out of bounds, that's not good because then you get a penalty stroke.
Extra strokes.
And that means
Score
higher
goes
scores, so that's not good. And then it just takes multiple shots to get to the green, right? Too many shots.
Yeah.
However, if you really pay attention to your long game and how well you're doing that, and you're not paying attention to that short game, it's predictable what's going to happen. And you're going to not have a one-putt game, that's for sure. Multiple putts, 4 to 5. Pick it up.
Yeah, they'll go, just pick it up.
Just pick it up. We're tired of watching you putt. Or you skull your pitches, right? And we did that a few times last week.
Yeah, that means like you're not hitting the ground below the ball. Like you usually hit some of the ground, right? To get it, you're just smacking the ball, and it's like
it goes way over the green again.
Right over.
Yes, or you get it in the sand and you can't get it out. I had some beach challenges last week, so we kind of walked away with we gotta practice our short game.
We were doing pretty good with the long game, but
the short game needed some work.
Was not
needed
so good.
Some work.
Yeah, that's where all our points were racking up, right?
That's right.
That's how you know. Wherever your points are racking up, right? Wherever you're hitting the ball the most, that's what's causing your challenge, right?
Yeah.
So there are some action steps that you can take, right? Just like with any polarity, you take the simultaneous actions to keep both poles strong, right? So when we think about the short game and you think about action steps that Michelle and I need to take to improve our short game, seek instruction, right? That's like Michelle mentioned at the beginning, when we were first learning, we went and took lessons. I went to like a 12-week camp on women who don't know anything about golf. That's how I learned to golf, right? Sent my husband to a pro. And then we practice a lot, right? So, or you can use YouTube.
Yeah,
right?
YouTube's great.
A lot of, instruction on YouTube as well, other video programs. There's lots of ways to get instruction. So you just figure out what you're doing wrong, right, from those instructions. The other is drills. Practice, practice, practice. We all know, even to be a leader, right? There's things you got to learn. There's things you got to practice. There's things you got to do. And the same is true for golf.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And when we first started to learn how to golf, I would go to the driving range all the time. We went to this little executive course every week. We just played this little, par 3, small little golf course meant for practicing, right? For young golfers or new golfers. And it was great. We practiced all the time. And then, the other thing is just, you want to be specific, be realistic, and, have a goal in mind, what you're trying to achieve. You're not going to, go from, a 100-point game to, par. Ain't going to happen, right? And so you want to just be realistic about your expectations, even with your short game. Like you don't want to be thinking you're going to have a 1-putt game when you got a 6-putt game.
That's exactly right.
Slow incremental steps to decrease the gap between where you are and where you want to be. That's the goal. Now, action steps for the long game. Again, seek instruction. So here's a big lesson about managing and how polarities work is that when you have action steps that apply to more than one pole, it's a priority because it's going to give you more bang for your buck, right? So if you need instruction on your short game and you need instruction on your long game, instruction's the way to go. That's probably the first thing to do, right? And then, video yourself to see what you can't see. And let me tell you, when you've been videoed, that's kind of eye-opening. You can see what your swing really looks like, right? You can see where you're making errors. I think that's what's really great about it. It's not so much fun to watch, but
it's not. I really look like that?
Yeah, that's what I do, really. That's how I stand. No wonder I'm hitting the ball right and left, right? And then know the distance you can reach with each club, right? So the different clubs are designed, for you to hit them at different distances. And you just need to know for you individually, and it's a very unique thing, to each individual, how far you hit that. So you use the right club when you're at different points on the course or on the fairway. So,
yep, just like we say, for leaders, know thyself. When you're golfing, know thy clubs.
That is so true.
Just like polarities, when you do golf, there are early warning signs that you need to course correct, not literally course the golf course correct, course correct yourself.
That's right.
So that's the good news though, because there's these indicators. So if you are over focused on your short game, this is what's going to show up for you. These are your signs that you need to do something about it. You're off the fairway more than you're on the fairway. So that's a sign that you need some help with your long game.
You're running around looking for your ball all the time.
The other thing too is just that urge to throw your clubs when you're going down the fairway, and maybe some of you do that, but it's like or bang it into the ground, or if you're at the beach more often than what you'd like to be,
which means you're in the sand.
You're in the sand, going to the beach.
Yeah.
So we really gotta. That means that we're over focused on our short game. So now let's talk about early indicators for focusing on our long game too much. Well, that means that we're not doing well in our short game, and so you're picking it up, right? You have to pick up your putts other than hitting the hole. People get tired of watching you putt all over that green, over putt. Just pick it up. Or the pitching shots, again, are flying over the green, right? You're just not getting up there like you should be and getting it in, and you're going back and forth across the green. There's nothing worse than that. I think that's my worst situation. When you hit it over the green and then you walk all the way around across the green and then you hit it back and you do the same thing on the other side.
2 times of that's enough for me.
Yeah.
The tension's too great. I quit.
Yeah. Of course, there also could be an indication that you're overusing the beverage cart. So your perception's a little off.
Wow. Yeah. Or you're making it worse. You're making it worse. Too. Exactly. Yeah. Well, you get frustrated. So you're either knocking your club or drinking. Yeah. Or swearing. Okay. As Michelle mentioned.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So here's the thing, right? Polarities are all around us. They're everywhere. And, it really is about practicing and identifying them. Recognizing that you've got one, even just with the game of golf, right? Some of you out there are golfers may not have even realized that golf is a polarity. But it is, right? And so it's deepening that understanding of this interdependent relationship, how the energy works is what is really that second essential element, right? You've got one, that understanding how it works and knowing how to leverage and manage it is what's going to get you through, right? Which is what's going to help you thrive.
Yep. So, to leverage the interdependent relationships or energy to achieve your greater purpose or to be that great golfer we all strive to be, you have to take actions to strengthen your long game and your short game. And that's why we love this analogy. It's just like, it's not an either or. If you're going to be a great golfer, you have to do both.
You have to do both. Yeah.
And as a leader, you need to strengthen your short game along your long game too, when you think about it in that perspective. So take actions to be your best self and thrive in all aspects of your life today while you simultaneously keep an eye on the future, really where you're striving towards, as well as, what's happening right now today in your personal and professional life as well.
Yeah. Leverage that. Don't let go of what you
Don't
want,
let
right?
go.
Don't make
Don't
the
let go.
mistake of letting go because the tension's too great.
Very
right?
important.
And don't drink or throw your club because you're frustrated, right?
Yes.
Because, if you overemphasize one to the neglect of the other, again, it's that crystal ball. It's 100% predictable. What's going to happen? You're going to end up with negative consequences, right? Whether it's in your long game or your short game.
Yeah.
If you overemphasize where you're at as a leader today and you're not thinking into the future and ahead, right, there will be some consequences of that. And if you're too forward thinking and not paying attention to the things that matter today, that will have consequences as well, right? So either way, it's 100% predictable what's going to happen, right? And if you don't leverage the energy by taking those simultaneous actions, then in the personal and professional life, then, you're going to, not have that future that you really want.
Yeah. So just imagine your future of living with intention, being very resilient and energized, happy and healthy, and really being your best self in your personal life and your professional life. And we actually had a recent experience with a healthcare leader that was in one of our coaching programs.
Yeah.
That was really kind of stuck in her short game, like what was right in front of her. And she was really focused on that. And through our work with her and just everything that we've been through with a pandemic, and just paused and realized she hadn't really been looking at her long game in a while, like what's right in front of her. And then she realized that she has just in the same pattern over and over again. And going through the coaching program and looking at her work-life balance, it's like, I can make a difference. I can practice this long game. I can look at what's around me. And she really started to balance her own life. And then what happened is this incredible opportunity came her way, and it changed everything for her.
Oh, it did.
It changed everything for her. To start out with, she didn't have a long game in her career because she was where she worked for years and years and years. Yep. She did have a long commute to work. Yeah. That was part of her challenge as well. But now she found this awesome position close to her home. She's managing her work home and her work and home much better. And it's made all the difference.
And she wrote it all out, right? She figured it out. She knew exactly. She was aware of what was happening in her life, but it wasn't really like in her face. And when she wrote it out, really kind of mapped out where she was and where she wanted to be, it then really the light bulbs went off. Her crystal ball emerged for her, and she could see she needed to look into the future, not just stay where she was. And she knew what action she needed to take. And when she started to take action, things happened. It was awesome.
It opened up for her. It was really great. It was really awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal. So that's a wrap. We're done golfing for the day. Thanks for joining us here on Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yes, and think about those polarities the next time you're in the course.
That's See you. That's right. Take care. Stay healthy and safe.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.